Hello and welcome. This is Lisa Jones, and you are listening to the Exploring Death podcast. Hello and welcome to Exploring Death. I'm Lisa Jones, your host, and today I have Khristee Rich with me. Khristee is a healer and spiritual teacher. She works with highly sensitive women, also known as empaths. She helps them to heal the wounds of their past so they can live the joys of today. Khristee uses her many gifts in her healing practice. She's clairvoyant, which means she receives clear visions of the future. She's also psychic, a medium, and an empath. She is here to help you shine. Hi, Khristee.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm doing well. I am so thrilled to have you on the podcast.
Oh, I'm so excited too.
I was just thinking about when we met. It was many years ago. I can't even remember what year it was, but we've known each other for many years.
Many years.
I would just love for you to tell the listeners how this happened, how here we are talking today.
Well, it's a very interesting story because I know you've been doing this series for a while, but I've never heard one of your episodes until just recently. And I listened to it and I was just blown away. It just completely resonated with me. And this is actually something I've never talked about. I've never talked about this subject. I've never talked about my near-death experiences. But once I heard your other person that you interviewed, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm supposed to share this because this really resonated hearing her story. So maybe people need to hear my story now too.
Oh, I love it. And
Yeah.
I love that you reached out to me. And I think what I've found in, excuse me, in working with people with near-death experiences is I've been able to put puzzle pieces together for my own out-of-body experience the night that my husband died back in 2004. And it's really opened my life and allowed me to see how this out-of-body experience has opened all these different doors and opportunities and connections with the spiritual world. And so I love that you had a similar experience by just listening to another person's experience. It suddenly, just put a lot of things into place that you hadn't been able to see before.
Exactly. It really did. So I've been a spiritual teacher for a while. I've been a healer for a while. I've been on this spiritual journey for a while. But hearing her story really helped me to get a clear understanding of so much of my journey. So thank you for that. So I really hope this will help others as well.
You are so welcome. So let's jump in. Tell me, I've never heard this story either. So I'm eager to hear. As you mentioned, this is the first time that you've talked about your near-death experience, and I'm honored that you've chosen to share it here on Exploring Death with me. So
let's jump in. So I have had actually several near-death experiences. I've had 3, but my first one happened when I was 13 years old. So back then, I really didn't think about death, of course. I was just living my life. And basically what happened was I had some surgery. And at the time, I was having some teeth removed. So I was there with the doctor, and all of a sudden, the pain just became too much for me. So I started going out of my mind in pain. And, I let him know that it was hurting, it was too much. And all of a sudden, just everything started to change, to shift. And it was very weird. And the story may be what? Crazy for people. But basically, everything got really distorted all of a sudden. And I couldn't remember that I was alive. All of a sudden, I didn't remember that I was alive, that I had a body, what was going on. I only knew what I saw, and I only knew what I felt. All I knew was this pain that I felt. And I heard voices saying Khristee over and over again, and I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea what Khristee was. And since all I saw was what was in front of me, I thought Khristee was what I saw. Khristee was the universe. That's what I thought. That was my thinking. So all of a sudden, everything that I saw just really went from being really distorted and stretched out to then all swirling all around in a circle. So it was like everything that I saw just blended into each other and just went very quickly into a circle. It was clockwise circle. And then all of a sudden it just shot outward. And it just shot like a rocket up and out, really, really fast, very, very forceful. And then all of a sudden I was in this world, this land that was just pitch black, just absolutely black and quiet. It was the most quiet silence you could ever imagine. It was the most peaceful feeling you could ever imagine. I have never experienced peace like that ever after, even with all of my meditations, and I'm a very peaceful person. And I just felt just this sense of love and peace and no worries. There was no fear. There was no resentment. There was no anger. There were no feelings, but peace, just peace and love. And I was floating upward. I was moving upward, and I could see this light. I could see this light up above me, and I was moving towards the light. But all I saw around me was darkness, and I just felt completely safe, completely at home, peaceful. And all of a sudden, I think my angels or my spirit guides or the divine was like, nope, it's not your time yet. And I just felt like they just dropped me. And I just went, and I just felt like I was like dropping off of a building, just really going fast, 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 until I went back into my body. And then my body actually like did a little jerk like that. Like all of a sudden it was, okay, I'm back. And then everything was very, very fast, like very, very fast paced. And everybody was very bright. And it was also back into that pain again. And I'm like, why am I back here? I was just where it was so peaceful before. So that was my very first near-death experience at 13.
Wow. My whole body was just lit up as you were talking about that. I mean, that is just an extraordinary experience. And
Yeah.
did you hear any words while you were there? It was more just a sense of
No, just a sense of
quiet.
peace, just peace. And I didn't see anything else. I didn't see any angels. I didn't see anybody else going up towards the light. I don't even think I saw my own body. It was just darkness. So that was my very first experience. But I got to tell you, just from that completely changed my life.
Right. And how so? Tell us how that changed your life.
Well, I think when you have a near-death experience, something really does change within you. So for me, it was just naturally the way that I viewed life. And it's like all of my life, I felt like I was sleepwalking, like I was just like kind of going through the emotions, but then somehow just I saw the world completely different. Like the world really looked differently when I came back. And also for some people who have near-death experiences, they start to have unusual occurrences or experiences or even conditions that happened. So a very strange thing happened to me was I started getting seizures. So I started getting seizures from that time at 13 years old. They actually believed that I had a seizure when I was being operated on with the doctor. And that's also what caused such great pain. And I needed to get out of it. But then after that, every 7 years, I started getting seizures. So not before, not randomly, like 2 weeks later, every 7 years. And then they led to another near-death experience.
Wow.
So it was really, this first experience was kind of like an initiation to my spirituality. And it's very funny because, again, just all of this really crystallized, got clarified through your other person that you interviewed, because I had actually overcome a chronic illness. And I thought that was the beginning of my spiritual journey. But now I'm like, wait a minute, it happened earlier than that. It happened when I was 13 with my near-death experience. That completely changed the course of my thinking to really open up my mind to there being experiences that I never imagined.
Oh my goodness. And so did you realize it was did you realize it was a near-death experience at the time?
Yes.
Or
Oh, yes.
you did?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And
I was very, very clear.
did you
Yeah.
tell your mom or or just?
Yeah, I did tell my family, my immediate
Mhm.
family, and then of course I told the doctors because I was a little weirded out by the whole thing. And then I also started seeing hallucinations. So I was very, very like, what's going on? The world really does not look the same anymore. So I was trying to overcome those symptoms. And so I did tell those people. But there really was no one else who I knew who had had a near-death experience who I could share that with.
Right. And what was the doctor's response? I'm just curious. Were they dismissive or were they supportive?
Well, actually, I had a huge round of tests done. So I actually had everything done to try to figure out what's wrong. They were very, very thorough. They did all of a sudden find a condition. So they said, okay, this is what happened. But of course, they were looking differently than the spiritual world of how things were going on. They're like, okay, well, what's
Right.
going on in the body that would have occurred for this hallucination to occur, that it was just a hallucination, that I didn't really pass. But again, I'm thinking that the doctors must have known, because they kept on saying my name over and over again, like I had completely gone into shock, or I was like not responding anymore, you know?
Wow. Oh my goodness. So then that led you to your second near-death
Yes.
experience. Okay.
Yes. So
So
my second near-death experience, very, very different. So the first one was more the traditional near-death experience. So a lot of people talk about going towards the light and being in the darkness. And actually, Lisa, who was the person, was it Lisa who you interviewed last time?
Susan.
Susan, she was talking about the void being the blackness. And I'd never heard that there was a term for the blackness, the darkness. So that was very enlightening to hear about that. But the second time was very, very different. So I was in college. I was with friends. It was outside. I was perfectly healthy. I was not having surgery. And then all of a sudden we had a little picnic, and then everything just started to change. So all of a sudden I felt like I was dying. I felt like a deja vu, like I knew what death felt like. And so all of a sudden, again, I started to hallucinate. It started to get like really trippy, like everything was really elongated and stretched. And I felt like I was as tall as the trees that were outside with us. I felt like I was really tall and very thin. I felt like I was very, very thin, like emaciated. And my head felt like it was over size, like it was really, really big, but the rest of my body was really, really thin. And the trippiest part of it was that my third eye opened. So for the first time ever, and I have never had this experience since, is that my third eye literally opened. So for the first time ever, I saw through my third eye. So I was starting to see in triangles. And I wasn't feeling well. I was really like, oh my God, I was like really overcome by emotion. So I started to like lose consciousness every like 3 seconds. So I would see the triangles, I would see through all 3 eyes, and then I would just kind of go into blackness. Like I would just like lose consciousness, and then I would come back, and I was very disoriented. I was very confused. And I had this really sense of fear, like this primal fear that I feel that animals must have when they feel they're being chased and they're in danger. And I felt like I just needed to run. I just needed to like run away, like get away from this feeling. But again, I had no understanding of what was going on around me. I had no understanding of who I was. I didn't remember who I was anymore. I had no idea who my friends were. I just thought they were just images in the picture. And but suddenly I did understand, like I did understand my friend. And even though I couldn't make sense of everything that was happening, I started to express that I wasn't feeling well. And it was a very unusual situation that we were about to get into a taxi. So we were about to go to another event. It was my friend's birthday. We were celebrating. And so my friend's like, do you want me to take you to the hospital instead? And I'm just like, no, just get into the taxi. Let's continue the birthday celebration. So I got into the taxi, but I wasn't feeling well. And my arms were just absolutely killing me. They just hurt so bad. And all of a sudden I had extra sensory perception. So I could actually feel so much more deeply than I can normally feel. I could feel anything that I saw. So I could see my friend in the taxi, I could see her moving, and I could feel that, and it hurt me because I could feel it so deeply. And if anybody touched me, I was so incredibly cold that when they touched me, it felt like they were burning me. And I remember just being like, oh my God, what's happening? I feel like I'm dying. And then I saw this angel. And I saw this angel who was sitting in the front seat. Again, she wasn't part of us. She wasn't one of the girls who was there, but she was clearly there in the passenger seat. And she was looking back at me with her long blonde hair and her beautiful smile, just like sending me so much love, like sending me so much love. But I was like in survival mode. I was like, what's going on? And then I knew again that there was the universe and that I was like the center of the universe, and what I saw was the center. And it was just a very, very trippy experience. So afterwards, my friend said, oh my God, I was really worried about you. Your lips were blue. I thought you were having a heart attack. What was going on there? And I'm just like, I have no idea. That was like really tripped out, you know?
Wow. So it really just kind of came out of the blue then. There wasn't
Yeah. Yeah.
any
It's just
incident.
all of a sudden it just shifted. Like my sense of reality shifted. What I like to think of it is all of a sudden like the veil was removed and I could see what was real reality, not the reality we think is reality. Really what we see as reality is not reality, is not really how everything is.
Right. And I've heard that from so many people that, it's almost like we're in a video game here on Earth,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
all just, just make believe or whatever. But then when you get that veil removed, it's like you can suddenly realize that you are the creator of it all. You're the center, like you said, the center of the universe, and it's all just
Yes.
a projection that's out there.
Yes. And the biggest revelation is that we are all one, that we're not separate. And that's again why I could feel other people moving, because they were part of me. They weren't
Right.
separate. So we all
Right.
think that we're separate, but really we are all one. We literally are all connected. It's not theoretical, we actually are all one.
I
So that
love
was
that.
very trippy. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, amazing. It's so interesting you say that we are all one. Yesterday, there's a wonderful experience here on Maui called Beach Dance. And
Oh, wonderful.
we all get together, and this amazing DJ puts together a playlist on these little waterproof iPods. And we all 1, 2, 3 turn it on together. So we all dance on the beach and go swimming, and turtles are there, and
Oh,
sometimes dolphins show
oh,
up. And so yesterday
wonderful.
at the end of the dance, I was on the beach and looking up at the sun and just really dancing with the sun, and just had that overwhelming
Mm,
feeling that we are all one, that we're
yes.
not separate, that we are all so connected, and we are one. It's just each one of us is an individual facet of the divine,
Mm-hmm.
experiencing
Yes.
itself in its own unique way, and yet, you know
Yes.
we're all intertwined in one. So that's great. So
Yeah.
were you able, I guess I'm curious, so you took the taxi and you went wherever you're going. I mean, when did you start feeling a little better? Did you go to the party or wherever you were off to, or?
It took a while. So I actually was like in it longer than the first time. So it seems like each time this happens to me, I get a little bit deeper and it goes a little bit longer. So I don't really know how long it was. I mean, maybe it was 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, but I really struggled. And I was also trying to not let them know how much I was struggling. But it was weird because just these thoughts came to my mind that were so clear. And it was almost like I became autistic. Like I remember at one point, I knew how many different positions, how many different ways my arms could move. And it was like
Wow.
some random numbers, like it can go into 19 different positions. And I know all boo, 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 all the different ways it can move, all the different possibilities. So it was just
Right.
like, what am I accessing from my brain, you know?
Interesting. Wow. All right. So then number 3.
So number three was at a public event. I was working at a contemporary art museum here where I live in Ridgefield, Connecticut, and it was our gala. So it was a very big event. There were lots of people there, all dressed up, being fancy, giving money, and I was working. So I was talking to one of the guests, and all of a sudden, something just came over me again. And I just knew that I wasn't feeling well. And I knew that I had to quickly do something about it. Like I was like, oh my God, something's happening. I need to do something. So I went to one of the stands where they had drinks. And I said, I need some water. I need a glass of water. And then I remember him saying, still or sparkling? And before I could respond, all of a sudden there was just like this very bright light, this bright golden light that came, and everything was like all pixelated and all just like, yeah, just pixelated. And all of a sudden I put my hand to my head, and then darkness, just all of a sudden darkness. And all of a sudden I went into this extrasensory stage again where I could feel so much deeper than normal. I didn't know who I was or where I was or anything. But I saw this bright white light that was in the darkness, and it was making this shape, and it was making this pattern that I knew, that I again knew was very familiar, kind of like a deja vu. And I had this sense of eternity. So yeah, it was just this fear. I was like, oh my God, I know I need to do something. I don't know what I need to do, but I had no understanding that I was still human. I just knew what I was feeling. And again, I don't know how it looked from the outside, but somehow I had moved into another room, and I had completely collapsed. I had completely become unconscious. And luckily, somebody who was there, he caught me. So I didn't hit my head on the floor. That would have been very bad. And immediately they called 911. They called the paramedics. But my angels, of course, were there. So basically, all the people who were there at that moment were doctors, nurse, and an EMT who just happened to be at the gala.
Of course.
So they all surrounded me, of course, right? Are always protected. So they just all surrounded me. They didn't know what to do. I was unresponsive for a while. They couldn't get any reaction from me. And I was just in terrible, terrible pain. I feel like it was, all I can describe is that I was a washcloth and I was being wrung like as tightly and as hard as you possibly could wring a washcloth all over my body. Just really, really painful and really, really extra sensory. So I could really feel it so much stronger, like 50 times stronger than I can feel a normal touch. So all I remember was all of a sudden hearing somebody saying, "Are you diabetic?" And again, I didn't remember who I was or anything. And it just came out of my lips. Again, I wasn't conscious of it. And I said, no, I'm hypoglycemic. And then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, okay, like what was that sound? And then I put my hand to my head and I go, oh my God, I have a hand. Oh my God, I have a body. Oh wait, I'm alive. And then that's when I opened my eyes. And then I saw everybody around me. And it was just a crazy incident. Like, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden it was like, I like went somewhere else, and it wasn't, again, normal life. It was like this extrasensory perception. And even afterwards, again, one of my coworkers who caught me, he said, "Oh my God, Khristee, you scared me to death. I thought you were dead." So it was crazy. But again, I was protected. My angels were there, and EMT was there, and he happened to have his little kit to check your vitals. And he did check my oxygen level, those little things they put on your fingers. And he couldn't get a reading. He's like, "Do you have clear fingernail polish on?" I'm like, nope, don't wear it. And he's like, I'm not able to get an oxygen reading. So I really was like, something had taken me towards that near-death experience, that I went very, very deep. But then I came back.
Wow. And so when you were out of your body at that point, was there the light again, or those typical experiences?
Yeah, so this time it was just darkness, just blackness, and it was this light that was repeating. So it was this pattern, and I don't really remember what it looked like, but I had this feeling that it was eternity. So maybe it was the eternity sign, but I have a feeling it was something a little bit more advanced than just the eternity sign, but it was familiar to me. It was very much like deja vu.
Interesting. And how did your spiritual gifts, did those grow? We didn't really talk about after the second time and the third time. Was there any delineation between that, and also time frame? Was that, you were saying every 7 years this happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's very weird. There's every 7 years. I believe that it happened the first time because I was 13 years old. So it's kind of like I had become a woman. It's kind of my initiation into my spirituality. I'm not sure. I think maybe our cells change every 7 years. Is that correct?
That's what I've heard. So
Yes. So of course, I'm still fitting all the pieces together. There's so much to assimilate, but I will say that I have completely grown. I've completely grown. And even, I said the second time I saw the angel, and now I am clairvoyant. So now during my sessions, I see all this rich imagery. I can see angels. I can see archangels. I can see into people's past. I can see into past lives. I can see the emotional landscape of people. So I can see all of this very, very clearly, very, very deeply. So this was kind of like a preview of what's to come, seeing, my first angel back then. And everything just kind of flows naturally how it's supposed to. But it's just very interesting that I believe these near-death experiences help me to go deeper and to help me to open up my mind in different ways that I never imagined that it would.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm curious, when is the next 7-year mark coming up?
Well, you know what? So it's a very interesting story. So my last time actually, I believe, was a little bit after. I think it was 9 years, but I haven't had one since 2006. So I've gotten out of my cycle. So I'm hoping fingers crossed, knock on wood, that that's not going to happen anymore, that I received all the lessons. What I consider now is that they were downloads, that they were downloading me with information, and that I may not have known right afterwards what was happening, what information they were giving me, but I really believe they were sending me information to help me to go the next stage of my life and to go forward, to go deeper into my spirituality.
Oh my goodness, Khristee, amazing. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing and detailing with such clarity. I mean, I feel like I was just right there with you in each one of the experiences. So thank you for
Oh,
sharing.
you're welcome. Thanks for listening.
Absolutely. Would you like me to pull a few cards and see
Yes.
what they have to
Yes.
say? Okay.
Sure.
Let's see. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, I'm just fascinated with this whole realm. Obviously, from my experience of being a CPA and then having my out of body experience and just things opening up and not understanding it, and in society, not really, it's not embraced like the rest of how things are supposed to be, quote
Yes.
unquote. So I just love being able to connect with people that have had similar experiences and see
Yeah.
how it's shifted their life. So
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just very eye-opening. It's like we're unconscious of a lot. So it really just brought things to consciousness.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so the first card is usually it's the blockage card, and you got beauty. But what I'm getting
Beauty.
about that is the beauty of your story and how you
Mm.
kept it quiet for so long,
Mm. Okay.
and that
Cool.
you're just now, I've got chills. My whole body is just chilling because now that you've really seen those pieces come together, it's going to what they're showing me is almost like this elevation of new. It's like they're showing me a staircase that you're going to be walking up, onto a platform and into a bigger platform. Now that you've embraced
Wow.
the beauty of your story, and
Oh, wonderful. Well, that
so
that that seems very true, because I was like, I didn't think my story was beautiful. I didn't think my story was even that interesting until I heard the other person speak. So yeah, I think that's right.
I know. And
Yeah.
it's so interesting that you say that, because when I wrote my book, I think I maybe wrote 2 or 3 paragraphs about my out of body experience, because I agree. I didn't think it was anything of really, I mean, I knew it changed everything, but yet I couldn't quite grasp the whole, how big it changed my whole life.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
more like, oh, that happened, and then you just move forward. But then you look back and you realize, whoa, that happened,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that was kind of the beginning of all these different things that happened, and it kind of was the key to everything, to unlocking the future.
Yes. Yes,
So
absolutely.
yeah. So anyway, so your second card is action,
Action.
and the second card is the action card, which I love. So yeah, it's all about taking action now and really getting out there and sharing your story. And there's so many different venues. There's, the group I'm involved with is the International Association of Near Death Studies, and they have
Oh,
a
okay.
conference every year. So maybe you can speak there, or,
Sure.
you
Love
know,
to.
and then your
Okay.
outcome card, which I love, is radiant,
Radiance. Oh, I love that too. That's perfect, because
which
I'm all
is,
about shining.
that's right.
Yeah.
You're all about shining, and it's a beautiful lighthouse with a beautiful heart and the light just shining
Oh,
out. And that's
beautiful.
you. That's you, your beautiful radiant self.
Oh,
And
yeah, shining light through the darkness.
that's
That's
right.
beautiful.
That's
That's
right. And the
actually
more,
something someone told me, that that's what I do. That's so interesting.
wow. Well, then how
Yeah,
perfect is that?
very perfect. Wow. Thank you, Lisa.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And I do believe that the more that you listen also to other people's stories, and the
Yeah.
more you start crafting your story about all the different details, I think more information will come back that
Yes.
you'll see more pieces fitting together. I realized as well that I had a healing crisis for almost 2 years after my out of body experience. And it was mainly due to the fact that I could not eat the same foods that I ate before.
Mm,
I was a very unconscious eater. I just ate whatever
mm,
with really
mm.
little thought
Yes,
to it.
me too. Me
And right.
too.
Oh, good. Okay. So
Yeah. Oh,
here's another
yeah.
piece
I
that I,
completely changed my diet. I
yes,
completely changed so much.
I
Yeah.
had to, right. It just, and I did, but I had no idea it had anything to do with this out of body experience. But since then, or since been
Ah,
starting to work with people that I have a kind of a support group, or we call it the experiencers group in our group here in Maui. And they were talking about their healing crisis. I'm like, oh, wait, I had one too. But I didn't know it was connected with the out of body. Apparently our cellular structure actually changes when you leave your
yeah.
body and
Okay.
back, or at least that's what I've been told. So
Yeah, that makes so much sense because again, I've completely changed my diet, and maybe that's why I no longer have had any more near-death experiences or these unusual experiences because I have been putting the work in to focus on my spirituality, to heal others. I'm on my life path, completely changed my diet. I don't drink alcohol anymore,
me neither.
and eat organic. Yes, I know we have so much
That's
in
right.
common.
I know. Eat
Yeah.
organic, whole, whole food,
Yeah. Yeah,
whole grain
because we're
diet.
so sensitive. We don't need that. We don't need that to be happy, and we don't
Right.
need a lot of things. We're just so sensitive, and I think that's also what I'm getting clarity from right now is that I didn't realize what a sensitive person I was and how other things affected me. So I've got to be very conscious about what I put into my body, about the people who I'm around, and what I do, right? Because everything affects me very, very deeply, just like those extrasensory perceptions that I have.
That is so true. And I so believe that food is medicine. So whatever you put
Yeah.
in your body is affecting your body in some way. And if it's not organic and healthy and whole, then you're damaging your body truly
Yes.
if you're not super conscious about what's going in. And not to
I
say,
agree.
well, I have a little I just made these beautiful, they're pumpkin muffins made out of cashews and
Oh.
maple syrup, but you can still have too much of a good thing. So I'm like,
Yeah,
I
I
got to
can.
get these muffins out of my house because they're just too good. And anyway, so I'm going to share them with my neighbors later.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, share. Everything in moderation.
That's
Yep,
right.
share.
Even when
Share
it's
the
super
wealth.
good, high quality food, you can also have too much of that, too much of good
Yes,
thing.
yes, that's
So
true.
I'd love to hear, what you'd like to share about what you do, or, anything you want to talk about.
Okay, sure. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit more about death since we're on exploring death. So I really just wanted to emphasize that we are all here and we have all lived before. So we all do reincarnate. I really believe that very, very strongly. You probably have been around other people that you just meet and just feel that natural connection with. And that's confirmation. That's confirmation. You may have known that person in another lifetime. That's why the connection is so strong. So I just want to give people comfort that when you die, when you pass, your spirit continues on, and you keep on coming back here, learning many different lessons, and that's the purpose of life. So you shouldn't be afraid. You shouldn't be afraid of the process. We have all done it many, many times before. So it's just that we have forgotten. We have that veil over ourselves so that we don't know everything, so that we don't get overwhelmed or fearful during this lifetime. But we've all experienced it. It's very natural to pass. So, yeah, I just wanted to offer that because I know some people say, oh, well, when you pass, it's just darkness. And I'm like, no, no, it's not. It's really not. There's so much more. And yeah, even I had a dream that really seemed like I was going to heaven. So I will share that with you another time because we're probably out of time. But yeah, even when I close my eyes today, I don't see darkness anymore. A friend told me a while back that when you close your eyes, isn't it cool that you see light floating around? And I said, you do? Let me try that. So I closed my eyes one day and all of a sudden I was like, wow, you're right. There is light floating around. And then the more you do it, the more you practice your spirituality and move forward, the more you will see. So then you will know that you're always surrounded by light. You're always surrounded by angels. You just have to be open to it.
That's
Right?
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, is there one tip that you can share? Just, I don't know whether it's a meditation practice or anything that might help people get more connected to their spirituality.
Well, I can offer my service.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So again, I'm a healer and I'm a spiritual teacher, and I really help people to release the wounds of their past and to connect with their joys of today. So if you come to me for a session, we will really get very in depth into whatever is holding you back, whatever pain that you have. And it can be anything. So it can be overcoming a chronic illness. It can be overcoming toxic relationships or heavy emotions like fear or grief or anger. or anxiety. It can be anything you desire, even feeling you don't know what your gifts are, what your talents are, your life purpose is. All of this, we can put it into your session, and then you can feel like you are moving forward. You can connect with your spirit, right? And then I can teach you, as a spiritual teacher, different meditations that you can do, or different things you can try, such as if you have a chronic illness, you can heal it naturally. I healed myself from a 15-year chronic illness completely naturally. So if you're interested in going deeper, if you're new to spirituality, you can set up a session with me, and then we can take that first step. We can take that first step and see what comes up.
Well,
Right?
fabulous. Fabulous. I will have the links on my website, but go ahead and mention how people can get a hold of you.
Sure. So it's www.thedancingcurtain.com. That's my business. And also you can find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, also at The Dancing Curtain. I'm on Instagram as Khristee Rich. I'm on YouTube as Dancing Curtain. And I also have a Facebook group. So if you're an empath, if you're highly sensitive like me, if you're interested in delving into your spiritual practice and learning how to protect your energy, then you're welcome to join me in this group. So it's the Empowered Joyful Empaths. And I think you're going to provide a link, but anyone is welcome to join us. So again, I teach meditations, creative visualizations, journaling, and lots of other tips and techniques to help you.
Fantastic. Well, that sounds like a great resource for anybody that wants to learn a little bit more about their spirituality and get in touch with their sensitive side.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
Great.
this was such a joy, Khristee. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And I can just tell that this is the beginning of a whole new chapter for you in just, seeing all these connections and that elevation that it's going to take you to a whole new place. So,
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
yeah, thanks. So thank you for listening to Exploring Death. Thank you for listening to the Exploring Death podcast. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Before you make any financial or legal decisions, consult a professional. This show is copyrighted by Exploring Death. Written permission must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting.